Hey guys, welcome back to another one of my Tower of Fantasy videos where we're going to be going over matrices for free to play, some future matrices that you might want to pull for even as free to play, and universal matrices that are really good regardless if you're free to play or if you're will, that can apply really good to any team that you plan on pulling. So if you do want to see all this video, please stick around all the way to the end and let's go ahead and get into it. So when we're looking at these first matrices or whatever, we're going to be talking about attack first, then we're going to go in tank, and then we're going to go into healer. So for your attack matrices, the best matrix that I would recommend for any attack weapon that you plan on using your free-to-play matrix. And remember, you guys are able to farm this through world bosses or artificial island. You know, you grind up, you get these matrices, and then you equip them. Not too hard. But you may be wondering, what type of matrices should I be using? Well, let's go ahead and get into the free-to-play matrix that you're able to get. So the first matrix I want to talk about is the SR sets, the Spaka set. The little world boss that's a reptile. I'm going to call him Mr. Sock for this video. Mr. Sock guy. He increases your damage dealt by 6% for each enemy nearby. This can go all the way up to 2 stacks. SR matrices have advancement too, so you can get all the way up to 9%, and you do 9 multiplies by 3, and you'll have the maximum amount of damage increase you can get, which is a lot of damage in my personal opinion, especially for an SR set. But remember, SR sets are going to have that lower stats than the SSR sets, so do keep that in mind when you're equipping this. The next thing that I will talk about, and that's a 3-piece set too. So the next thing that I want to talk about is who is this? Samir. Everybody should know who the hell Samir is. If you don't know who he is, I suggest you go to the home screen and look at her, and you tell me what you think. So for Samir, you're going to be equipping the 2-piece. So what the 2-piece essentially does is going to increase your damage progressively by 1% upon hitting a target. So each time you hit someone, it's going to give you a stack. This can go all the way to 10% at advancement 0, and this can last for 1.5 seconds. So whatever weapon you equip with this SR matrix, you want to be constantly attacking, so you can get it all the way up to 10% of extra damage increase. Well, it may not seem like a lot, but the fact that you're always going to be attacking with this as your main weapon is a lot of damage increase over time than if you didn't have it. So in my personal opinion, it's good with the fact that it has high base attack. So why not equip it if you're going to be using the main DPS weapon? That's my take on it. And then with that, what you want to equip, because the 4-piece sucks unless you're using Samir's weapons, then we're going to go over to Crow, which increases crit damage, which you have a crit stat inside the game that is going to scale based off of the fact of what level the enemy that you're fighting. If they're lower, then you're going to get some extra crit in order to crit and deal with more damage. And then on top of that, it just scales depending on what level you are compared to them. So what this 2-piece set does, like I said, it increases your damage to targets with less than 60% HP by 24%. That's a lot of extra damage for a crit or whatever. Now, I don't know how that really factors out when you're doing math or whatever, but that's a lot of damage just by looking at it. And you'll go for 2-piece Samir and 2-piece Crow for, your attack sets or whatever. You can go for King or Shiro. King is really for shatters. He can restore some HP on his 4-piece set. And then for Shiro, she gets an attack buff at the beginning of the battle for her 4-piece sets. And then for her 2-piece set, she's also able to increase your shatter. So these are really for shatters. If you want some extra shatter on your team, you can go ahead and do that. But me personally, I would never equip these sets. I would never farm for these sets. And I know that they give you free Shiro pieces at the beginning of the game. So I know some of you people are going to want to utilize that, which is not bad in my personal opinion if you're running a physical comp. Subasa's sucks. We're moving on. Nah, but for real, Subasa's, she's literally for Subasa. When Annabelle comes out, you can equip that on her. But me personally, I just want to recommend that. So that's my take on it. So we're going to go over to the tank things, which 4-piece Huma is really good. But the problem is you're free to play. Will you have 4 pieces, and will you be able to get copies of these 4 pieces? So her 2-piece set sucks, so I'm not going to really go over that. It's just going to inflict some bleed or whatever. Not really important. 4-piece set is what? So if you're a tank, you want to take as least amount of damage you're going to be able to whenever you get hit. So it's going to reduce the attack of all targets within 8 meters that are taking damage over time by 10%, which basically means every time someone attack you and they're not doing some bogus ass range attack from the map, scoping you or whatever, 10% less damage, which is really cool. May not seem like a huge number, but it is with the fact that you're already getting reduced damage by running as a tank in Tower of Fantasy. Another good little set that I like to talk about is Merle and Zero. You're going to be running the 2-piece set, not the 4-piece sets, because They're not meant for tanking or whatever. They're meant for that specific weapon. But for the 2-piece set, a Merle, what it's going to do is whenever your HP is less than 30%, so if you're going against a boss that you know does a lot of damage, you probably want to equip this. And then not only that, it gains a shield equal to 20% of max HP for 10 seconds. So if you're running tank on your pieces of equipment, you should also be running HP stat so you can boost your HP at highest amount. And I heard that some of these tank weapons actually scale off your HP as for your attack damage. So if you're not running HP, I'm going to kind of consider you an idiot. But besides that, and the hurtful words, jokes aside, you do want to be running this. This is going to scale off your HP, and it does have a 90-second cooldown, which is pretty long. But this shield can save your life because of how tanky it is, right? So we're going to go on to the 2-piece set for Zero. And for Zero, upon using the discharge skill to switch to the current weapon, it's going to give you a shield equal to 150% of your attack, which is not huge. When you look at something like HP, if you look right now, you probably got 400,000 HP, which you could take 20% of that. I forgot, maybe 50,000 or more. That's a pretty tanky shield. But when it comes to your attack may be something like, I would assume that it's not anywhere over your base attack. I'm assuming it's not anywhere over 5,000, and that's not as tanky in my opinion. It's gonna be like 7,000 final shield, but this shield is a lot easier to get, and it pops within 6 seconds. So it has almost like 50%, 60% uptime compared to the other weapon that has the 10 seconds or whatever. Now that didn't make sense, but the point is the other shield lasts a little bit longer, has a longer cooldown, but is a little more tanky and more for, you know, saving your life. And then the 4-piece set, which is really good or whatever, this is going to be support, so I'm not going to go over it, but we are going to go ahead and move over to support. And for support, I would recommend the 4-piece set for Zero. While the shield is activated, you and your teammates deal 16% more damage. 16% more. You can have this equipped on one person, one singular person, support person. And whenever your shield is activated, your shield, not theirs, not his, not Buddy O Joe down the street. When your shield is activated, it's going to increase your team's damage by 16%. That's a crazy support buff. If you're a support healer, you should be ashamed if you're not running 4P Zero. You should be disgusted in yourself because of how good it is. And then we're going to go over to Coco, which will be the next healer. That set is really good. So for the 2-piece, we're going to increase your healing capability by 10%. And it's all going to increase the healing that you're able to get by 10%. On top of that, your 4-piece set is really good. Whenever your teammates are healed, it's going to increase the attack by 12.5 seconds for 6 seconds. Now, I don't know if this applies to just the weapon you're using, or if it applies to all your weapons, or if it applies to the team. But I'm going to assume since it says when you and your teammates are healed, it's going to increase the attack by 12.5 seconds. I think this is just going to apply to whoever's getting healed. That's my natural assumption. I could be 100% wrong, so do not take my word as the final, you know, say or whatever. Some good sets that you can use just to add some extra charge or damage could be peppers, which is going to increase the amount of charge that you're able to get. So if you're using weapons for charge or whatever, you can. This could be Coco or Zero or Samir or whatever. That'll increase the charge amount that you have. And then using the discharge skill and you switch to another weapon or whatever, it's going to give that, you know, weapon 80 you know, charge or whatever whenever you're using Echo set. So that's pretty much it for the support, the shield, and not only that, the attack type of the free-to-play version. And then the next thing we're going to talk about matrices that are located in global right now currently that I think is good. And when we look at 2-piece free, it's really going to apply to if you're using frost weapon, increase frost attack by 8%. For 10 seconds when switching between frost weapons. So whenever you're using frost weapon, you're switching in between back of them, you're going to get that little increase of damage. Not crazy. In my personal opinion, I would not pull on that. I would skip it. Same thing with Nemesis or whatever. This really applies to Volt Team, especially the 4th one, which you're going to really apply to that character in Volt Teams. But for the 2-piece, when the target is being healed, this one kind of sucks in my opinion. Their Volt attack is increased by 8 seconds for 20 seconds, which is a pretty long time, but it's not worth it. Pulling in my personal opinion. We're going to have the next one, Claudia. Now, if you want to, I would not discourage you. Claudia, Matrix is the only thing that came out of Claudia. I'm sorry, I'm taking a shot at you Claudia fans. But the 2-piece is really for air attacks, so if you're using Samir or Crow or even Claudia in the air, that could be really good, but I wouldn't recommend pulling for that. But the 4-piece set is crazy. Hitting the enemy with a skill reduces the cooldown all weapons by 1.5. That's not really the crazy part. It is good. It's not a bad thing. You know, you get to spam your skills a little more often. And then increase the damage of discharge skill by 58%. Advancement 0. You can't tell me that's not good. For 15 seconds also. For 15 seconds. That's a pretty long time for a huge buff like that. And then Co-op B, who's coming out next, I'm like almost 100% sure. Her 2P set, and it's kind of mid or whatever. It's gonna apply burn whenever you dodge, and whenever you dodge 4 times or whatever, it's going to apply another dodge. So if you dodge 4 times, you get an extra dodge, right? 5 dodges or whatever. And it's going to be a 13% damage increase for every 10 seconds, right? So it's a nice little burn effect. It's not crazy. I wouldn't go crazy about it. It's not, I don't really recommend it all that crazy. But the 4P set is pretty good and works on anyone. And increase damage by 13% to targets without no more savage. So if someone's getting inflict with paralyzation, or if they're getting burned, or if they're getting freeze, then that's literally increase of damage. And pretty much all weapons are going to have some type of abnormal stat that they apply. So Co-op B, fourth one, her fort matrix really redeems her, and I think that's a good set to go for. Even as free to play if you want to, but there's a lot better sets that I'll put before that, but it's not a bad set to pull for in my personal opinion. So we're going to talk about universal sets right now, and this is going to align with the core units once again. Except for Annabelle, I'm going to point her out really good, really quickly, really good. So we're going to have someone like Saki Fu, who's going to be based off of Ice Comps, and then we're going to have Ruby, who's going to be based off of Fire Comps or whatever. So for Ruby, her 2P set is going to increase her flame attack by 15% for 25 seconds. It works in the background, I mean you won't see the stat. And then for a 4P set, and just by the way, that 2P set is insane. That's the 2-piece matrix set you want to save up for if you're running Fire Comps. Period. There's no discussion about it. You better be. If you tell me what matrix to run, you better be looking at Ruby's. And then after releasing the weapon skill, you're going to gain mastery for 15 seconds. The cooldown is also 15 seconds, 50% uptime. While mastery is activated, successful base attacks increase flame damage by 4%, up to 6, which is 24%, essentially at advancement 0. On top of that, it's going to have a cooldown of 0.2 seconds between stats, not very long. At 6 stat, gains a shield to resist damage basically 1 time. So if you get this shield or whatever, when you finally get to max stats, it's going to resist fatal damage. I'm going to assume this. It doesn't say it doesn't, but I'm assuming if you're getting the shield 1 time, it's going to resist fatal damage because it doesn't scale off of anything. That's what I'm going to naturally assume, because that's how some of these other guards and things like that work in this game. And then Saki Fu with her 2-piece set, whenever she has false resonance activated, which is 2 frost weapons or more, every 3 seconds is going to deal 60% of damage or frost attack to enemies within 10 meters. So it's just going to do passive freeze damage. It's going to add a 5% slow effect, and then after 3 stacks, freeze the target for 3 seconds. This do not include bosses. And then the target will take 12% more frost damage. So it's literally buff on top of buff on top of debuffing the target. Pretty cool. Their 4-piece set, which I think is really good. Attack the target 10 times to add a 12-second frost mark, which if you're using Saki Fu, she attacks really fast, so this is not an issue. But for that benefit of, you know, having that issue attacking them all the time, you're going to increase your frost damage against the target by 25%. 25. Holy. But yeah, that's a really good 4-piece set you want to say before. And the last one I'll be going over, well, not the last one, the second to last one is Lyra. But for Lyra, her 2-piece set is going to increase, it's going to give you a 20% attack buff, and then lower your HP the higher your healing resist, all the way up to 100%. So that's really good. I don't know how you're going to get to 100% since it depends off your HP, but hey, we'll worry about that later. Maybe that's a mistranslation. But for a 4-piece set, it's going to be dealing physical damage, gain up to, you know, 5% physical damage buff with a cooldown of 0.1 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. So right there, that's 25% physical extra damage. When fully stat, it's going to gain additional 6% physical damage for 5 seconds. So you can add 25 plus the 6. Now you're at 31% extra physical damage. Dodging grants up to 3 stacks of blocks for 10 seconds. I don't know what blocks is, but it's going to block your HP. 60% of current HP and at least 20% of max HP. So not only you're going to be getting that advancement 0 at advancement 0, you're going to be getting that 31% physical damage increase. You're also going to be getting a massive shield to block you from damage, kind of like Merle's or whatever, with not such a long cooldown. And then the last one in the final matrix I want to go over, that's pretty universal, but this is going to be for flame teams or whatever. This is a really good matrix you want to go after too, in case you want to go for Ruby and Annabelle's matrix. Hitting the target with flame weapon increases final damage by 6%, final crit by 2.5%. This stacks up to 2 stacks, which means you can go ahead and multiply that by 2. And then the 4-piece set, equip 2 or more flame weapons, which is a fire comp now. You can do 2 or 3. It's going to increase your final damage by 13%, and then after a crit hit, increase the crit damage by 21% for 10 seconds. Those are map-fit buffs for a decent amount of time. And then when the charge attack hits 3 enemies, you're going to recover 1 dodge. Cooldown is 2 seconds. So that's pretty much all the matrices you want to know. I have went over free-to-play matrices you can use whenever you're using Artificial Island. I've also went over matrices in the future and Reddit that I would recommend pulling for them, or how I personally feel about them, and matrices in the future that are universal that I feel like even if you're free to play you should pull for. So if you guys did like this video, do not forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and join the Discord so we can go ahead and do that giveaway. And I'll see you guys next one. Peace.